So today we've got Craig Campbell coming on the podcast. Craig has helped me from day one of my freelance career. Always gave me advice, put me in touch with the right people. Generally a really good guy and someone to talk to in the community. Also got a lot of experience and does some cool stuff. So watch the podcast, learn a little bit how Craig got started, what he's doing, his first speaking gig. What else we talk about? We kind of talk about how he helped me as well. So it's a good podcast. Any questions, ask them below. And yeah, thanks for watching. Sweet. So Craig, how long have you been in SEO now?
As you politely put it off air, nearly 20 years, or around about 20 years. I think it started around about 2001, 2002. So nearly as long as you've been living, mate, because you just celebrated your 24th birthday. So it makes me feel proper old by asking that question. But yeah, 20 years, get in very early into the game.
What did you do when you started? Like, how did you first get into SEO?
To be honest, I started as a very shit web designer. Now, I left school 1997 or 1998 and was in a few dead-end jobs. Fucking worked in Burger King, worked in call centre, I worked in various other places. But chatting to girls on MSN was a big thing at the time. You know, the internet had just come out. You're just like, whoa. Before, like for me to chat up girls and whatnot, you know, you literally had to go up and chat to them. And you know what it's like when you're 18, you're shy, you know, all that stuff. So it was easier on MSN. So the internet came out, you're just like, man, I can't believe I can talk to people and blah, 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 blah. And had a kind of unhealthy obsession for the internet when it came out. And started messing about with websites, which I was really fucking bad at. But messing around, done it for a few clients and whatnot on the side, and decided that, you know, I was looking in forums and whatnot, and people were making money, like just trying to rank websites. So I'm like, that seems a lot better than trying to get my head around this HTML code, which it was at the time, you know. And I thought I was a genius because I had scrolling text going across the top of the website. They looked awful, by the way. But yeah, started off with web design, decided that I just really wasn't going to get my head around it. I'm the least creative guy you'll ever meet. And decided to focus more on the marketing side of it. And that just kind of evolved from there.
What were the online communities like back then? So, like, did you have Black Cat World back then? Did you have all that?
No, not Black. I mean, Black Cat World's been around for a long time, but there was no Facebook. There wasn't even Bebo at the time, and it was a forum called the SEO Chat Forum where I used to learn a lot of my stuff. But it was just one. Don't get me wrong, there were a few forums, but the SEO Chat Forum is where it's still there to this day. By the way, just doesn't get used a lot anymore. But SEO Chat Forum is basically where people would say, right, I'm stuck with this, I'm stuck with that. So it was like a big Facebook group, but it was just in that old forum format. So and everybody had a fake name. So nobody was called like Craig Dewart. You know, they were called like there was a guy on there called Fathom. There was just mad guys with mad aliases. So you never really knew who you were talking to. So you didn't know if you were talking to somebody that knew what they were doing or what they didn't, you know, or if they never, you had to basically take them at face value. But SEO back then was a lot easier. It was just spam, basically worked. And on the forums, you just try wee bits similar to what you do here. It's obviously, you know, you've got Facebook groups and all that now, which just makes the whole process a lot quicker. Plus, you've got YouTube where you can watch videos. So things can happen a lot quicker. But back then, a guy would say something to you and you'd be like, did he mean this or did he mean that? So your testing was a lot different because no one would lay, still to this day, no one's going to lay it all on a plate for you. But back then, you had to try and read in between the lines. Did the guy mean this or did he mean that? And sometimes you'd ask him the question and he wouldn't reply for 3 days. So it wasn't as quick and as sharp as technology is today. Couldn't get a guy on Facebook or anything like that. Hey mate, what did you mean by that? You know, I didn't quite understand what you said. So there was a lot of testing and stuff. But as I say, SEO was a lot easier back then as well. So it kind of balances itself out.
It's a lot of information available just now, though, like for free. It just makes it so easy to consume. So I can't imagine what it was like back then. I mean, your course is free now, right?
Yeah, so I decided to give my course away on YouTube. You know, I sold courses for years, and then you just get people slagging them off or people giving them away for free. You know, so someone would buy the course, and then before you knew it, would be on one of those websites where everybody gets it for free. And I was just like, do you know what? Fuck this. If anyone's giving my course away for free, it will be me. And decided to give it away for free just as a kind of brand building exercise and to build up my YouTube following. And yeah, obviously just to give something back to people as well, because I found it difficult. You know, I've been in the game 20 years. I only started making proper money probably in the last 5 to 7 years, like real money. The rest of the time was always a struggle, always making mistakes, always learning, always blowing shit up. So the first probably 10, 15 years was don't get me wrong, I made all right money, but 10, 15 years, you know, I made mistake after mistake after mistake. So, like we all do, you know, hiring the wrong people, doing the wrong stuff, selling the wrong shit. You know, and again, back then, processes weren't as good, the tools weren't as good, you know, and I know you, Craig, you've got the you know, the content writing service. You know, there was no surfer back when I was doing agency work either. So again, there was just a lot more opportunity for just not making it a success. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, and SOPs weren't a big thing that was spoken about. You know, and I wanted everything to come through me when you know I was doing stuff. You know, I was a bit of a control freak, so I'd have content writers, but I wanted to add all the content, which looking back is the height of stupidity. You know, I needed a good slap. I wouldn't delegate, but I just didn't trust people enough to do it for me. And you know, these all form part of why I wasn't able to make good money back then, and it's all self-inflicted, which
Yeah.
happens.
I think like manual keyword research, the thought of doing that sounds horrible, especially considering the amount of content we're pumping out the door. Like, to not rely on Surfer, probably wouldn't have a content business. Even things like textures and stuff like that, like, it's just such an asset. So like for you, the breakthrough point was more like personal. It was more like you were your own worst enemy. Is that right?
Aye,
Yeah.
definitely. And again, I had to feel the pain though. Do you know what I mean? I had, you know, being your own worst enemy teaches you a lot of lessons. Do you know what I mean? You're just like, nah, this has to change. This, you know, it's me that's killing the business here. And you've got to be able to self-analyze and be critical of yourself, and that's something that I'm happy to do. Some people can't accept that they're wrong, even to themselves. I'm quite happy to hold my hands up and say, do you know what, you fucked that there. You know, you've done this, you've done that.
Yeah.
I think you've just got to be honest with yourself and say, nah, you know, it's not working. You're a bit of a control freak, which I think probably every young business owner, and I'm not saying I'm young now, by the way, before anyone jumps in and slaughters me, but at the time, a young business owner, you know, they think they're doing well, and yeah, it's my way or no way, you know, go and fuck yourself. And so we all have that bit of ego at a certain point in our lives as well, and sometimes you just need to. And I was the one that slapped the ego out myself. Don't get me wrong, a few people are like, "You're a dick," you know. There are a few falling outs with members of staff and stuff like that, and people who'd left working for me, and you just get a wake up call and go, yeah, maybe I am a bit of a dick and have to change.
I think like you do need to be really critical, and I had so many like little things that were holding me back. I remember though, I phoned you up one day and you picked me up, we went in your yacht, remember? And you and Gary Wilson, like it was like Dragon's Den. They literally went through me like as if Dragon's Den, and were super critical. And I could have walked away from that and been upset, but it was what led me to where I'm at just now. It helped anyway. Helped me ask the right questions. So I think like even just having good people in your corner is really important too. Who was in your corner back in the day? Did you have any mentors?
Do you know what? No, really. This is the thing, right? I only attended my first ever SEO conference in 2016, which was only 5 years ago. And I'm talking about as an attendee. Now, back then, I wouldn't trust anyone. You know, I wouldn't really talk to another SEO guy. Don't ask me why. You know, it's all right for you now. Like, I'll phone Gary, or I'll phone this, or I'll phone that. And you know a lot of people, and it's easy to get advice off of different people who are doing different things. But back then, no. The answer is no, because I always had this thing. I'm not going to talk to another SEO. He might start wanting to steal what I'm doing, or steal my staff, or whatever. Now, as you know, you've been in my office and stuff. I don't care if you come in. I just don't believe that you'd be able to take my staff, even if you wanted to, because I obviously treat people better now and stuff like that. But again, what I have found in the last 5 or 6 years of going to conferences is my knowledge has went through the roof, but obviously my circles of friends has massively went through the roof, and potentially now there are certain people I will still phone to this day. Listen, I'm stuck with this, and I'm stuck with that. Or what do you think of this, or what do you think of that? So I didn't have a mentor as such then, but I'm a big believer you've always just got to have good people in your corner who are not snakes that are going to shaft you or steal your idea, because you know what it's like in this industry. You mention a niche, and potential someone goes and does the search volume and goes, fuck, I can do this as well.
Yeah.
But I think the people that I kind of roam around with, if you want to call it that, are all good, solid people who are all relatively successful in what they do. And I think for me that we can kind of help each other and slag each other, even keep each other's feet in the ground, but also equally, people are there to pick up the phone to and ask for, I'm in this situation, what would you do? And that's the great thing about the industry. But I'm just gutted I didn't do it earlier, but I'm not sure it was there earlier, to be honest. I think events and stuff have blown up massively in the last few years. And back when I had an agency and back when I was a freelancer, they were still there to some degree. There was a couple of events, but it wasn't what it is now. So, I never really had a mentor. It was all kind of just trial and error and keep yourself to yourself and try and keep off the radar, to be honest. And again, I think that's why it's taken me so long to actually make decent dough, to be honest.
Yeah, there's a guy called Ryan Mutton. I think he's like the head of organic growth for Bumble. He's just set up a service or a group or whatever it is, which is like basically pairs younger people in SEO with more experienced people in SEO. It's quite a good service. So you can go find a mentor. But if you're looking for a mentor, I'd reach out. It's free. He just does it to be a nice guy, I guess. So I've had a few mentors, and it's been really beneficial. And I've definitely grown a lot quicker than I would have without it. So yeah, I'd say always find a mentor. But you also spoke about like having like people in your corner. Like there's a few groups we're in and stuff like that, and you haven't experienced it all, even if you're in the game for a while. There's always like a question, you have doubts and stuff like that. It's good to run by people. Would you say there's like any specific like gaps in the market just now for like SEOs that maybe aren't as skilled at doing X, Y, Z as whereas other people are?
I mean, there's always gaps. There's always gaps. For me, one of the biggest things that you do with SEO, or that helps your SEO is link building, and I just don't think there's a lot of people that do good link building, and that's where young Gary Wilson excelled very, very quickly over the years. And there are gaps there. Even like content's a big thing in the industry. Everyone needs good content. There's just not a lot. Where do you realistically? There's maybe 20 good content services out there, if that, across the world. The rest of them are just absolute garbage. So there's gaps everywhere. But there's a lot of people, and I think this is a thing with this industry. There's so many people that claim to be SEOs, so many people that claim to be able to do this, that, and the next thing. But how many of them do it successfully and really well and at some kind of scalable level? Anytime, even now, if I find a good service that does a particular thing for me, I'm not sharing it with the world until I've rinse the absolute arse out of it. And there's it can be something as stupid as you know Pinterest, you don't even have to be good at SEO. See, if you're good at driving traffic from Pinterest, for example, you could go and make a fortune just doing that one very, very particular thing, just like you do content, only content. Like, do you know what I mean? So you can really, niche down within the SEO industry as such. You can become a link builder. You could probably become a technical audit guy. You could be a guy that only does reputation management. There's just so many little things and little gaps in the market that I just don't think have been exploited that well. There are people who do reputation management, but again, so many more people need it, and there's not enough guys doing it or doing it to a high level. So I think, although SEO's been around for 20 years, or probably even longer, well, it is longer than that. I think it goes back into the 90s. But I think for me, when it comes to SEO, it's still early on for people doing it really, really well and making an absolute fortune with it. So I know that sounds a bit strange, but and a lot of young people will be looking going, geez, he's at it. But genuinely, I think with the experience and everything I've seen over the years and seeing young guys like you do well, Gary and various other people, it's a proven thing. If you can have the right processes, the right team, and be able to scale, you can make millions and millions of pounds. And there's money to be had out there, loads of money on the table. So there's gaps all over, man.
Josh, what was it? You said something to me like the industry's going to how much is it going to be worth in like 5 years?
Something like 81 billion by next year or something, wasn't it? It was like growing by 12% each year or something like that, wasn't it?
Crazy.
It's insane. Like, when you hear it like that, because we always think SEOs is just a very, very small part of what people do. But for it to be worth that much, it really is insane.
One big thing that I used to have an issue with, and you helped me with this as well, was I used to get scared of people like Gary doing so well and everyone else, because I seen that as like, oh shit, there's all these link builders now, there's no room for me. But what I realized was there's loads of bloody customers out there, and even if someone's maybe using someone else, they will test other people. There's a lot of money out there to be made. So yeah, that was that. Yeah, I don't know, like, if the industry's growing so much, right, what would your recommendation be for someone that maybe needs that frontline experience? They've just had a junior role, they're in some agency, but they're maybe only working on like some local sites. They want to progress more. How would they improve their CV?
I mean, that's a difficult one. Sometimes, and I don't mean any harm to any agencies out there, but a lot of young guys go into agencies, or young girls, and they're given very particular tasks to do within that agency. Such as maybe being the kind of client-facing guy that does a bit of reporting and a bit of sales, or maybe only doing tech audits and then pass it on to the content team, whatever. And I don't think that that primes you well for going out into the big bad world of making money online. You come out of an agency with a lot of questions in your head and doubt in your head and all that kind of stuff. So you're not getting the hands-on experience you need. What I would always say to a young person is, go and do something on the side, whether it's affiliate, whether it's, a couple of local clients, whatever it might be. Do that stuff on the side and do a full project from start to finish, from, getting the website built, even, getting a wee freelancer to build you a wee cheap website, doing your keyword research, implement your content strategy, start building links. Once your content's added, do your internal linking, and continue to optimize and everything else that goes into SEO, regularly auditing your website, looking at the site speed, trying to tweak that, trying to improve that. So I think you need to be able to do the job from start to finish, because when you leave an agency and you go out and you maybe start getting clients or whatever it might be, you don't know anyone who can do these things. You don't know nothing about nothing. Who's going to do this? Who's going to do that? And it just puts you in the back foot. So I think you've always got to have that kind of hunger inside you to say, do you know what, I'm going to do this on the side. And of course, people will argue, I work 9 to 5 or 9 to 6 or whatever your agency hours are. But anyone who's been successful in this game has had to put a lot of time and effort in at night time, working to 2 and 3 in the morning, honing their skills, learning. And, you know, again, guys like you, Craig, or Gary, or anyone else who's been successful, they didn't just do a 9 to 5. There was a lot of learning on their own time at their own cost. And you've got to invest in yourself. And again, a lot of people, whether that's investing cash in a course or a call or attending, you know, coming to the boat, like we said to you, come up the boat and we'll see what you're doing and tell you whether we think it's good or bad or whatever. And to be honest, at the time, you weren't doing that well.
No,
We're like,
terrible.
what the fuck? So, and that's where we're like, you could do this, you could do that, we could change this, we could, or, you know, there's opportunities out there, and you're probably like, what the fuck? So, again, you invested time coming along to that. You didn't have to come along. You took a bit of a. We were only playing with you anyway, just for a laugh. But you know, you took a bit of a beating, and your ego get slapped around a bit, and you're probably like, "What the fuck just happened to me there?" But that was all done with the right intentions of just showing you that there is money to be made out there, and that you were at the point. Not doing that well, and maybe just to try and motivate you. And I think, you know, it's different doing that in Glasgow. Maybe someone else down south or whatever would take offence to that, but you would hope that somebody for Glasgow would take it with the right intentions. And that's you know, you've got to invest your time wisely with the right people. You've also got to invest in yourself, courses and everything. And even now, I still buy courses from people to continue to develop. So I'm weak in certain areas, and I'll be like, nah, I'm buying that course. I'm going to find out more about that, or I'll jump on a call with a guy and be like, mate, I can't get my head around this. I've done it with Pinterest. You know, Pinterest, I keep hearing people saying I can get a lot of traffic from Pinterest. It's a platform that I've not bothered with. And I know I'm crap at it, and I don't really understand the benefits of it or how it works. And you know, I bought a course a couple of weeks ago, just working my way through it, and I'm going to try and test it. So again, even 20 years in the game, I've still got to invest in myself, because I don't want to just be what I am. If someone says to me Pinterest is good, or something else is good that's out there, I'm paying some money, and I'll go and learn from who's the best at it. Why not? You know, it's a quicker learning curve, just grabbing a call with someone and just or an online course or whatever it might be, and getting them to lay all on a plate. What I would say though is, if you are going to invest in yourself and you do buy courses, just be realistic. Someone's not going to lay it all out in a course. I would say hopping on a call where it's not recorded, people can open up a bit more, and you can actually ask the questions you want to ask, rather than, you know, on YouTube or anything like that. I can give a lot away, but I can't really join all the dots together, because there's guys out there I don't like watching this stuff, and guys I don't want to help. So just bear that in mind when you're buying courses. You know, the jumping on a call or going to meet a person at an event or whatever and grabbing a few beers with them will probably open up. The person will open up a lot more.
Yeah. I think with the ego thing you mentioned on the yacht when we went out, you're right. I did have an ego at the time, and when I seen how well you guys were doing, it definitely opened up. I was like, shit, okay, I really need to give myself a kick up the arse, and I did, and I'm really grateful for that. I think a lot of maybe newer people in the industry do have an ego. Actually, a lot of people have an ego in this industry, and maybe that's because they haven't been exposed to people that are doing some really cool stuff. So, like the Manchester Mastermind, seeing how much people like James Dooley are testing things and stuff like that, it kind of opens your eyes up to what can be done. And then you mentioned that time after work, like someone that I think's done really well was Graham Grieve, another Glasgow guy. He been in the game for 7 years or something. Most of that time he was working for other agencies, doing the odd little freelance thing. And then he started his agency last year, and he's done $250,000 in the first year in revenue, which is that's really good for someone that's just started in the middle of a pandemic. He's built a profitable business, and he again just worked his way through agencies, and then had a few freelance clients on the side. So I think it's cool to see, especially being another Glasgow person. So you spoke a minute about becoming known as like the content guy, the link building guy. How did you go about building a presence online? Because you're quite, everyone in SEO knows who you are by now. What your YouTube just hit 80,000 subscribers. How and why did you decide that you wanted to start building an online presence?
So the story started, I had an agency which wasn't branded with my name. And I had a sales guy that was working for me. Now, as we all do, you get a sales guy and you let him do all the donkey work and all the calls with the client and the client management and everything. And I was in the background doing all the SEO. So the guy was nice, by the way, and he never done anything wrong. I'll clarify that right from the start. But the guy came to me and he says, Craig, this was one day where we're doing reasonably well, where we're growing and all that stuff. The guy says, Craig, I'm going to fuck off and do my own thing. Because I didn't really want to sell a lot of websites. I wanted to focus more on digital, like SEO, pay-per-click and all that stuff. I just hated web design. And he felt as a sales guy, he could make more money just selling website after website after website, which again, I can't take that away from him. There is a business model in that, but it just wasn't for me. So he decided to go on his own. So I'm phoning up the clients. Hey man, it's Craig here. I'm going to be looking after your account now. And they're like, who the fuck are you? And I'm like, I own the company. And they're like, nah, that other guy owns the company. And I'm like, nah, it's me. And they're like, but I like him and I talk to him and all that. And I'm like, so I'd put myself in a position where no one knew who I was. And basically someone else was the face of my company. And fortunately, the guy didn't do anything, but the guy could have basically just walked away with all the clients. That's the position I basically left myself in. And from that day, I decided, nah, I'm going to make a personal brand because although I don't have to be involved in every last single thing, I need to make sure that people at least know who I am. And that's where the personal brand came from because I was literally like, fuck, my clients really don't know who I am. And that is a stupid mistake. So I decided to do the whole personal brand thing. And obviously, whilst I had an agency, it was always my goal to be the next Matthew Woodward. I used to follow a lot of Matthew's stuff. Well, I still do. But back then, he was at the peak of his powers and, it was a big affiliate. So he was the guy I'm looking at going, man, that guy's doing all right. And I'm sitting here slogging it out over client work. So he was my go-to guy. Like I wanted to be like him.
Yeah.
And, a personal brand. And that's where I have my wee cartoon face. I copied Woodward and started blogging, started doing this, and then I seen he was speaking at events, so I'm like, I want to speak at events. Started going to events, and I'm like, fuck me, some of these speakers are fucking terrible. Like I could go up there and do better, and provide more value, and went on and done that, and so that is essentially the story behind why I done it. Because one, I put myself in a dangerous position, but two, I like the Matthew Woodward business model, and I also want to always test myself. Although I've done lots of speaking events, I don't particularly like going and speaking at events. I'd rather be the guy sitting in the back with my pals having a beer. Sometimes making slides and all that kind of stuff. Can be a bit of a drag, but I think, with the experience I've got and the stories I've got to tell and stuff like that, there seems to be a market for people who are interested in what I've got to say. So I do the speaking thing, but it does take me out my comfort zone. And I think for me, I'm always wanting to challenge myself and say, can I do it? And hopefully I've been relatively successful with the speaking thing.
Yeah. What was the first event like? Were you petrified?
Oh, mate, I remember it. It was actually in London, early 2017, and someone says, "Come and speak at this." It was like a local meetup. There's maybe about 30 people there, and it was in a downstairs thing. Ross Tavendale was there. That's how I met Ross Tavendale. So Ross Tavendale was there that night, but it was in a kind of downstairs pub thing. And I remember I was in, and I'm like, fuck, 20 or 30 people were coming in. And it just felt, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to pass out with stress. And I stood outside, and my missus was in a hotel like 3 blocks along. And she was just chilling in the hotel while I was going to speak. And I'm fucking sweating. I'm talking about drenched in sweat outside, fucking nervous, shaking. And it crossed my mind to just text the guy and say something. I had to go and see the missus back at the hotel, like there's an emergency. And I was that close to sending that text message and just fucking walking away. That's how, and I was dripping. I'm talking about dripping with sweat. But anyway, something inside me just said, nah, you're here now, go down. So I went down, spoke, and I'm not kidding. There was beads of sweat dripping off the end of my fucking nose. But when I stood up, the mouth was dry and everything. I'm just shitting my fucking pants. But I done all right. Like, I think anyone who says when they public speak that they're not nervous is probably lying. Certainly for me, even though I've done it hundreds of times now, sometimes when you go, you just get that dry throat and you're just like, fuck, what am I going to do? But as soon as you start talking, something kicks in and you can go for it. Do you know what I mean? But it was terrifying, mate. Terrifying.
Yeah, I think it's something that I would find daunting for sure. Something I want to do at some point, just so I could say I've done it. I think everyone needs to learn to public speak. I mean, I've been to these like local networking events, and you have to stand up and introduce yourself. Actually, even at that mastermind one in Manchester, when we had to stand up, I was like, oh God, face is bright red. So I get it. And the thing is, I knew everybody in the room. I'd had a beer with everybody in the room, and it was still daunting. So yeah, fair play to anyone that can go on stage.
And does it get easier, Craig, or do you still get as nervous the first time?
Oh, I mean, it does get easier. Don't get me wrong, I don't sit there and I'm not drenched in sweat when I go on now, unless the fucking heating's on. But but there's still an element of nerves there, no matter what, and a bit of the dry mouth thing when you go on stage, and then when you start, you go. It does ease off. Like the first time, I was probably on the verge of having a fucking nervous breakdown. Now I just get on with it. I turn up, try not think about it too much, and just go up and just do it. What's the worst that can happen? The thing for me that, and I don't know if someone told me this or I just made it up myself, but the knowledge comes, like I'm knowledgeable about what I do. I'm 100% confident in that. And I think that kind of takes over. If you speak well and you speak with conviction and a bit of confidence, it doesn't matter whether you're a public speaker as such. I'm not a professional speaker by any stretch of the imagination. I still will, and all that stuff, and potentially not have the stage presence of someone who is a professional speaker. But I'm an experienced SEO, and that's it. I don't claim to be a public speaker, but I think people will relate to that. And I'm fairly comfortable with it now. But there are far more polished speakers who have done the whole training thing, and they captivate the audience and do all the kind of stuff and interact with the audience and all that. That will never be me. But I think people are not there for me to put on a show as such. They're there for a couple of knowledge bombs, if I've got any. And as far as I'm concerned, that's all that anyone's there for. So it doesn't matter whether you don't have a great presence. If you get slides or whatever you're showing and you say, right, here's a really good tool or here's a really cool thing that I've done, the audience are going to be interested. So you can kind of cheat a bit in this industry when you're public speaking, as long as your knowledge is up to scratch.
Yeah. How would you go about getting your first one? Because there's a lot of like SEO managers, you see them all playing the speaker game now because it looks good in the CV. So it's probably a good thing to do.
Sorry, carry on.
No, I was just saying it's a good thing to do. Like if you get the famous Brighton SEO speaker badge, then that goes a long way, or it seems to anyway.
It's difficult to get your first couple of speaking gigs. The likes of Brighton, a lot of people are not aware, but I'm not saying everyone has to pay to speak there, but there are speaking slots available for you to buy. And I bought a speaking slot. I know Ross Tavendale bought a speaking slot. And from there, if you can show that you're a good speaker, you'll then get other opportunities. And people say, well, why the hell would you pay to speak at an event? The answer is, you need that first bit of exposure. And I part of the Brighton SEO thing, we wanted to sell courses at Brighton SEO, and we had a stall. And I'd always pitched to Brighton SEO and never even get a no. They just said never get anything, just blanked. And I was going to take a stall anyway at Brighton, and I just said to the people there, I want to speak as well. And they're like, well, the speaking slot's this and the stall's that. And I said, well, if you can do the two of them for this price, then I'll take it. And we done a deal. And, I'd done that. And that was probably the first high profile one that I'd done. I'd done a whole bunch of local meetups and smaller events, but I was also fortunate that at the time I'd done a lot of webinars with SEMrush, and SEMrush liked the way I was speaking, and I'd done some speaking on behalf of them. So they had one speaker, Fernando, and if he was traveling, say he was in Israel for a speaking event, and there was something on in the UK, which there was, Search Leads, and they basically said to me, "Can you speak at Search Leads on behalf of SEMrush? This is what we want you to talk about." So I took opportunities like that as well. But here is the thing. I was at Search Leads, and I was always relatively well known for black hat things. And a guy came up to me and he went, "I'm massively disappointed in you." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "I was expecting all sorts of black hat tricks and everything." He says, "I've watched some of your other stuff, and you do really good stuff. Like, what the hell were you talking about today? Like, why show a SEMrush audit?" And I'm like, you know, I I was paid by SEMrush to be there and talk about auditing. I couldn't talk about black hat stuff because it would be damaging to SEMrush's brand and all that. So that struck a chord with me, and I'm like, I don't really want to, be restricted in terms of what I'm allowed to talk about. And but I had done Search Leads, I'd done Brighton SEO, and I'd done a few others. And I think the big one that I'd done that really put me in the map was the Chiang Mai SEO one. I was able to grab a slot there. Someone pulled out, and I filled the slot and done well with that one. And again, that just opened it up. Then once you get 2 or 3 under your belt where you've delivered something reasonably good, the emails coming your way. Can you speak here? Can you speak there?
Yeah.
That is how it works essentially. So a lot of people say, "I'm not effing paying to speak and deliver knowledge." If you pay to speak, you've got to then sell your services. And that is the problem with a lot of events. So a lot of people say, that event's garbage because I've just been sold to by this guy. But the events industry, and I'm not saying every event's like this, but if those speakers have to pay, they've got to make their money back somehow. They ain't going up there and paying and then not pitching somehow. So a lot of the good events do not allow you to pay to speak. You will be invited only, but you need to have some kind of evidence that you can speak. So that's how it kind of works. You've got to kind of cheat at the start and pay and get the exposure. And if you deliver, then the rest will happen naturally for you.
Was that first Brighton one worth it? And forgetting the fact you got your other gigs, did you make ROI in that event from the stall and stuff?
Not at the stall, no. And the reason for that is a lot of, for me, and I don't mean any offence to anyone or Brighton or anything like that. Overall, it was worth it. But I think if you want to go to Brighton and sell courses and stuff, then it's probably the wrong audience, because a lot of that is young agency workers who've been sent there for a day out by their staff. They don't have the authority to just go and buy a course or anything like that. So a lot of people were interested in the course, but they didn't buy it because they would have to go away, talk to their boss on the Monday and get approval. And, if you were the boss and somebody came up to you, Craig, and says, "Hey, I've seen this guy selling a course for 500 quid at Brighton, can I have it?" You just be like, "Nah, piss off. Like, it's a course that I'm deciding that you're getting." So I think overall, it opened up massive opportunities for me. So Brighton did help with overall. It was worth it, 100%. But in terms of ROI from the actual event itself, absolutely not. not worth it. But you've got to think long term. That's what I would say. And if you need to do whatever to get on a stage like that, then it's definitely worth it if you can deliver on the stage as well. There's no point in getting up there and paying money and then you freeze and don't give a lot away. I think you're going to be in real trouble at that point. But I was always confident. I had all my people in the front row all egging me on as well, Dooley and all that stuff. So it was always fun. And when you've got the likes of Dooley and all of the guys that you've met, you kind of have to perform because you'll get slaughtered if you don't at least deliver one knowledge bomb up there. So you're kind of under pressure to perform a wee bit. You need to do something. They're like, whoa, I didn't know that one. So that for me, I took a bit of inspiration for that as well, because you know what Big Dooley's like. He's always claiming up your tricks and having banter with it. And as I say, we got on really well. But it's all about egging each other on, and he's successful. I'd like to think I'm successful, and you bounce off of guys and they'll say, you can't speak, you never delivered this, you never, no knowledge bombs up there, that was shit. And you're just like, I'm not listening to him giving me stick. I'm going to just try and go up and perform, because that's what you want. You know what I mean? You want to just shut guys like that up because he's wild.
Yeah, I know he won't let you get away with it. I'm not done writing SEO. I'd like to just do it just to see if I unfortunately, when I started doing the whole conference thing, COVID kicked off. So I've been at your meetup, been a few other bits and bobs here and there. We went to one in London. I can't remember the name of it, but it was horrible. It was so bad. We ended up leaving halfway through it. It was really bad. The last one we went to was pretty good. I quite enjoyed that last one in Newmarket.
Decent.
Paul's been on this podcast too. I think if he is going to move it to another location and a bit more people come to it, it could be really, really good. Yeah, Josh, you liked that one as well, didn't you?
Yeah, no, it was really, really fun. That was my first SEO event as well. So there was a few things that you said, Craig, and Peter Van Graaf said that I was like, wow, this is a bit mad. But yeah, it was definitely not what I was expecting. It was really, really interesting.
It was for a smaller event. This is the thing. Sometimes you always look for the bigger events. I think, a smaller event like that, but you've got the ability to go and speak to the speakers and have a beer with them. There's a lot more learning to be had, and it's just, everyone thinks, the event with 1,000 people's the best one to go to. That's not always the case. I think sometimes those smaller ones offer a lot more value, and especially for people like you, Josh, who were there for the first one and didn't really know anyone, but you probably still had the chance to have a beer and get to know people a bit. And stuff like that in the 2 days or whatever it was while we're there, or 3 days. I think it was 3 days. Did we not go on the Tuesday?
Yeah, we went the Tuesdays.
So I always do that, and I make a point of that. Is a lot of people just turn up for the day of event and then piss off, and I'm like, nah, I'll go and make a couple of days of it. Do you know what I mean? I'll go down. Obviously, it was a long drive down for me on the Tuesday from Glasgow, but I think we all sat in the bar with Paul that night, had a few beers. Then on the Wednesday, other people started arriving. You have a few more beers, and then the Thursday, the actual event's there, and then up the road on the Friday. But a lot of people just turn up on the day, don't even have a beer, don't come back to the hotel, and that's where they're missing a lot of opportunity. Because for someone like you, Josh, my question to you would be, where did you learn the most of the stuff? Was it on the actual stage, or was it in the hotel bar?
No, it was definitely talking to people after and before the event.
Yeah. So again, it was being recorded, so you have to be careful of what you're dropping there. And Chris Palmer dropped a few things, in my opinion, that he probably shouldn't have dropped. But he was live and it was away and wanted to put on a performance, showing people how to do pin drops and stuff. So, but again, that potentially could get patched up if anyone sees that. So it's fair play to Chris for doing that, but I think at the bar and stuff is where all the knowledge is at. And a lot, my wife used to say to me, Craig, you're always just away at these events getting pissed and all that stuff. And I'm like, you fucking no idea what I'm learning while I'm getting pissed there. It's I've got the notepad out on the phone. Someone drops a tool or something, taking a wee note to myself, and then when you go up the road, you just go away and add it to your processes or your strategy or whatever the hell you've managed to get.
Yeah, I think that one of the best things about these events is like, say you come from an agency background, white hat agency, working a few e-com sites, a few local sites, you're probably not going to see half this stuff there or even hear about it. And it's not until you go and meet someone like Peter and see what he's done, and it just blows your mind. You're like, holy shit, that's it you're up against. Like, you're never going to find that in 90%, 99% of the agencies you see out there.
No.
So until you go there, it's going to open your eyes up. It's going to start you getting you thinking in different ways. And I think that's when SEO really gets fun. Adding title tags to websites, not really for me. So yeah, my recommendation to go. What's the next event we should go to?
I think the next one might be SEO Underground again. I think Paul's talking about having that in April or May. The next event I'm actually going to is Affiliate World Dubai. It's not an event I've never been to. It's a massive event, though. I think there's 6,500 attendees.
Yeah, I'm going to get.
I can't really say. I hope it's going to be good. I think, it's a lot of affiliates, so I'm going to expect the level to be high. But that's one that I'm speaking at. I've never done the thing, but it's going to be massive, and I'm really looking forward to that one. But I know that's out with a lot of people's budgets and all of that stuff. So that's at the end of February. But we're hoping to do another SEO Underground, maybe April or May time. Then I'm speaking in Spain in the June. I think SEO on the beach, which is I'm pretty sure, where the hell's it? Do you know what? I'm not even going to guess. I'm not even going to guess. But SEO on the beach, if you Google it, it's a lovely beach, and they've got gazebos, canopies, and all that. People are just sitting having cocktails, listening to SEO stuff. And it's always one of those events I've looked at for years and thought I need to be there. And I was invited to speak in 2020. It got postponed because of COVID. 2021 postponed because of COVID. So hopefully I'm still on the speakers list for 2022. As far as I know, I am. And I would love to get to that one in person because it looks cool. But I think you've got to travel around. I've been to events in Poland. I've been to events in Italy. I've been to events in Iceland. And it's those kind of places that have the kind of stuff that you probably want to hear, the kind of darker stuff. I think a lot of the UK events are more designed to agencies. And I listen, I get it. I'm not being critical. I get it. You can't just have somebody like me talking about how to do this, that, and the next thing to young, impressionable people and agencies. It's just not on. And fair play, but I think that's what a lot of the events in the UK are, is more tailored towards that crowd than the 100 or so guys that like Black Cat stuff. And that's why we always kind of have to roam around in the sidelines, if you know what I mean, or at smaller events. But I think Brighton SEO will hopefully be back. It was in person in September. I avoided that one, but I think they're back in March or April again. And I would highly recommend you get down to that because there's just so many people at it. It's good for networking, and Brighton's a decent place as well.
Yeah, not been one to go though. It was meant to go in September, but I think Barcelona was just too much fun, so I kind of gave up on it. But I'll go to the next one. Okay, shall we start wrapping this up? We've got one more question, unless you've got any, Josh. But yeah, Craig, what would you say like your biggest mistakes been in your career, and what did you learn from it?
Biggest mistake or mistakes? One thing I would say is that ego thing. And being a control freak massively held me back for a long, long time. Learn to delegate and trust people and give them the right processes. And, rather than everything going through you, I think that was the biggest mistake in my life. But also, I personally am a very impulsive guy. I've made a lot of mistakes where I've jumped into niches two-footed. I've done a bit of keyword research and seen the search volume. and then just went, whoa, this is my new niche, went away and built websites and not done enough research. Like I'd done it with the e-sig niche, and then decided further down the line, after the website was built, after the SEO was done and the orders were rolling in, we found out that you couldn't do paid ads because it's nicotine. So I think you have to slow down. I'm an impulsive guy, and I think most people are. They're just like, whoa, great idea, let's run with it. I have burnt so much money doing that, and wasted a lot of time as well, jumping in 2-footed. But I think for anyone else, processes, delegation, working on your business, not in your business, are some of the things that I would advise people. Because when I was running that agency, I was working in the business. I would walk in at 9 in the morning. I'd get battered by staff problems until about 11 or 12. Then I'd have some phone calls. Then I'd try and do a bit of this and a bit of that. And it would get to 3 or 4 in the afternoon. And I hadn't done a single bit of SEO, which is what I was supposed to be good at the time. And that was all my own fault. I didn't have the right team, the right staff, the right processes. And again, it's all right to be self-critical that there wasn't any guidance out there at the time. But for other people, do not be that guy. Do not, hope for the best or just hire people for the sheer hell of hiring. I was hiring people for the sheer hell of hiring people at some points as well, just so that I could have more staff, so that I could tell my mates down the pub, yeah, man, I've got like fucking 10 staff, because I thought that was a cool thing. It's fucking stupid. It's crazy.
Do you like plan your days? So like figuring out what tasks you need to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got a task list of stuff that I need to do or people I need to talk to. If I've got someone that needs to, like wee Sam, who does all my video stuff, I'll be like, right, get wee Sam to do this, that, and the next thing. Or do this or do that, or speak to this or speak to that. So I've got a task list every day, and even sometimes at night time, I'll sit and think about the day ahead, what I've got to do,
Yeah.
and just go and get it done. I think you've just got to be accountable for something.
I think that's going to be I'm going to keep asking people this, because I think that's going to be like a common trait of successful people, is they literally plan the next day, the day before. And I'm trying to get like my guys to do that, because what I found was they'll start in the morning and then they'll start planning the day ahead in the morning, and then you waste the first like half hour of like your productivity. That's when you're like peak of productivity. So it's really good practice to do it the day before. Did you ever do like a time tracking thing or anything to kind of help you be critical?
Nah, not really, because I'm quite self-critical anyway. I think for me, if I've got 10 things to do today and I get them all done, I'm laughing. And see if I've done them all by 1 o'clock, I'm still successful. I think in the past I have been the guy that said 10 things to do, and he's just like, I'll do them at night time. Can't be asked just now. Whereas now I just wake up and say, get these out the road as quick as you possibly can, work your way through them, and get them done and then rest. So I've got myself mentally working that way now. So listen, we all like to skive, we all like to be lazy, but I'd rather do stuff and then be lazy than be lazy and then everything builds up and then it's all sloppy and it's all over the place. I worked in the reverse fashion before, and I'd rush everything late at night and all that, and be up to 3 in the morning, couldn't sleep and all that. And I think that's, as you say, probably at the start of any working day, you're probably at your peak productivity, and that's all there is to it. So get a task list and fucking attack it. It's really that simple.
Yeah. No, that's something that I figured out a while ago. So I used to be the same. I used to like keep seeing opportunities, then trick myself into thinking I was doing what, but I really wasn't doing what towards the actual goal that I had. And then I just like distress and anxiety, and then like beating myself up because I was failing. And yeah, there were my big learnings. How's the boxing going?
Good. I'm just two weeks back into it, because obviously one of you bastards gave me COVID when we were at Newmarket, so what basically wiped me out for a month. So just getting back into it, but my cardio's not good just now, man. Just need to build it up, but I'm doing all right, man. I'm enjoying it, so that's the main thing.
Yeah. When's this big fight?
With who, me and you?
Should we get it organised?
Let's get it organised, mate. I've always wanted to give you a few slaps.
The next SEO Underground.
Let's do it.
get a ring sorted. Okay, I'm up for that. Oh, fuck it. You can line people up with a free throw. Nah, I thought you had one with Brad, no?
Maybe next year. Obviously, that event I couldn't get there because of the COVID thing. So
yeah, COVID sucks. COVID sucks. Okay, Josh, you got any last questions?
Yeah. What does the future entail for Craig Campbell, and will there be more TikToks of you in a bra?
Potentially there'll be more TikToks of me in a bra, but future, I don't know. People ask me that all the time, like what's your goals and stuff. I've done relatively successful with my life, and I'm happy with the way things are going, and I'm happy for that to just keep continuing. I don't have any, by the age of this, I have to have that or anything. I just see opportunities now and take them and go with the flow, rather than thinking about what's around the corner, a year's time or 2 years' time. I think life's too short to think like that. Just got to live for the moment and see where you end up.
Right, this is done. Thank you very much for watching the podcast. If you made it this far, I really, really appreciate the support. Go like our Twitter, Facebook, follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram. That's one we're trying to push just now. Give us some love. Season 2 is going to be really good. We've got Bumble, we've got Groupon, we've got Misguided SEOs coming on. We've got people like James Gregory. It's awesome. The last episode of season 2, we've got another 2 coming up. We've got Ferry and we've got a guy called Tom Chilton who's going to talk about business processes and how he can help agencies and affiliate marketers 10x their businesses. So podcasts, we're getting a little bit better at doing them. Season 1, I'll admit, we have to improve on them, and that's what we've done in season 2. Hopefully, as you keep watching, you will notice the difference. Thanks.